Hi, Misha here, and continuing to take a closer look at various troopers. Last time we looked at guys who really like blowing things up, but from afar. Rocket launcher and mortar troopers. Today we're going to look at a similar type, but they enjoy getting up close and personal to burn things. The Flametrooper, or Incinerator Trooper, colloquially nicknamed as burners or toasters, hotheads. Their legacy goes all the way back to the Clone Wars and stretches all the way to the First Order. So we have three examples here from the Star Wars Black series of 6-inch figures. And I don't think I have shown you at least our first one today. Here we have the kind of original or earliest Flametrooper. Our man here is from Jedi Fallen Order, but the idea of a Flametrooper goes all the way back to The Force Unleashed back around 2008. Now this is where you just kind of have to go with suspension of disbelief in Star Wars. Even our modern military tactics flamethrowers are kind of dated and not used and kind of not purposeful. So in the Star Wars universe, practically speaking, yeah, there's not much to recommend them except it's cinema, and it's meant to be both cool and threatening, and in that sense, yeah, Flame Trooper is definitely threatening. And of course in the video game, they're actually quite a formidable enemy. In the Clone Wars, there were clone flame troopers present at the second Battle of Geonosis. They were meant to burn out Geonosian hives. And they started using this here, the Blaztec X42 heavy flame projector, heavy flamethrower. And, well, it's definitely big, long, and heavy, but, you kind of want to be away from fire. So it makes sense. Very long and narrow, basically a pipe, a tube with a stalk. Interestingly, this is kind of inspired by the real-world X42 flamethrower. Has a relatively thin hose running to a backpack here. And with a cape. And if this looks like a snowtrooper to you, well, you're kind of correct. The model for this was actually taken from concept snowtroopers, just modified to be into Flametrooper, given this gun, the backpack being modified with the two tanks on the bottom and a new helmet. So it's basically the same type of insulated armor outfit, whereas of course with the snowtrooper you're trying to keep the cold out. This would be keeping the heat out, so you have a more restricted helmet and visor, and yeah, relatively big heavy gun. It's a neat figure though. This is a unique gun mold for him, and a unique backpack too, namely the addition of the two tanks here. Would presume that one is for fuel and one is for propellant. And these were rated anywhere from 10 to 20 meters. And they were used to do things like burn out vegetation and other critters in the environment. And of course they were also used to attack enemies, be it the clone or the Imperial versions, which were, originally clones and then eventually would be Stormtrooper recruits. Certainly a terror weapon. Not really good for defending, but good for an offensive move. Especially if someone's dug in, fortified. But these weapons would have to cool off. They were prone to overheating, as were the troopers. And of course, fuel is relatively limited because it's a flamethrower. And this figure here, it comes as you see it. And it was part of the Gaming Greats lineup. And he holds his gun very well. This hose comes up into the grip and is detachable, which is good. If it gets yanked, it will hopefully not rip itself out, or you can't repair it. The backpack is removable as well. So, pretty well accessorized. And that leads us to our next feller. This guy is called the Incinerator Trooper, at least by the Black Series. And this is from The Mandalorian, but it's just an evolution of the Stormtrooper. He has more standardized armor, but it has a special protective coating on it to make it heat resistant. He also has a red pauldron to designate his role, and a slightly reworked helmet with a smaller visor and oxygen. And he has a new weapon. This is the D-72W heavy projector. It's a much chunkier gun. It has a double hose instead of a single, and that gives way to 3 tanks on the back, 2 for fuel and 1 for propellant. Now, this figure was criticized when it came out because the tank is actually flipped upside down compared to what we see in the show. The thing is, I actually think it looks better this way, with the hose coming off the bottom, just like the other one. But some people have flipped it around. You do have to do some cutting and doctoring and re-gluing to make it fit properly, but chances are when the Flametrooper or the Incinerator Trooper design was given to Hasbro to make these, it was a prototype, or someone just goofed thinking the hose would come from the bottom. Again, totally understand. Seems logical to me. But we do have a new gun here, and the cords kind of come from the top instead of the grip. And this is the somewhat updated Stormtrooper body, and he holds it very well. Excuse me. He doesn't come with an E11 or anything, but I don't believe the one we saw in Mandalorian had much of anything. This looks to be a pretty chunky, heavy piece of kit, so he probably doesn't have a whole lot of extra room. Probably just like in World War II, these flame troopers would be escorted and protected by more standardized stormtroopers. And that would give way to our third generation here. The First Order Flame Trooper or Burner. His armor is more modified than the Stormtroopers, but not quite as much as the original clone in early generation. It has new feet, more grippy feet, because if you're spraying fire all over the place, last thing you want to do is slip and fall in it. He does, of course, have the heat protective coating and thermal insulation. The helmet is modified with air filtration and oxygen supply, and a smaller visor to protect against the bright flames. And he has yet another type of flame projector. Note that the hose comes from the grip again, but it's a thicker braided hose. This is the D93 flame projector, and much like the X42, it's very long and spindly, a little slimmer. A bit like the D72, it has a total of 3 tanks, 2 fuel and 1 propellant. Note again that the cord's coming off the bottom. And the thing that's kind of neat, there are what appear to be hand grips on the back, which would make sense for hauling a heavy tank around. And this definitely seems like it has a lot of fuel in it compared to the other ones. This First Order Stormtrooper body is a little limited. For some reason, his arms don't have much in the way of an elbow. Not even 90 degrees, which, yeah, he holds his gun okay, but he can't quite get it to his shoulder. At least mine can't. Oh well. Still a neat looking gun. Just it happens to be on that old 2015 body. And it doesn't come with a blaster. A lot of the First Order have a slot in their hip where you can put on a F11 or an SE44 pistol. Kind of neat. But this guy That's all he's got. These, of course, were used as terror weapons to burn out villages. Yeah, mostly just terror weapons and threats and all that. Not a lot of practical use. But kind of fits the First Order. I will be honest, this kind of fits the First Order's MO a little better than the Empire. And it's kind of funny, we looked at them in reversed order of how they were released. But it is neat to see the progression of the Flamey here. And while we're at it, our Mandalorian version did come with one other accessory, the other two did not. A flame effect that kind of quite neatly pegs on to the end of his thing and actually lets him stand up quite well, like he's about to burn out a baby Yoda. As I said at the beginning, it's, kind of anachronistic that there would be flamethrowers in a space opera. But if you think about it, it really didn't start with 2008, although that was the first time we officially saw a Flametrooper. It actually started with Mandalorians. Back in the original series, Boba Fett had a flame projector on his gauntlet we saw in Return of the Jedi. And in universe, that's where the clone Flametroopers were said to first have been inspired, kind of based on Mandalorian propensity for flamethrowers and flamethrower tech. But theirs were smaller, kind of limited use weapons. Well, for the clones, they needed a true battlefield weapon. And when the X-42 was introduced, it was considered a tad bit overkill. But, as you see, that Mandalorian propensity for flamethrowers stuck around. In universe, the reason the Mandalorians had flamethrowers, they were developed centuries ago when the Mandalorians were fighting the Jedi. A lightsaber might be good at deflecting a blaster bolt, maybe even a solid projectile like, say, a rocket. Hard to project flame. And say what you will about this setup, that's physically an impressive thing. The projector and the thing, it's well over 6 inches, well over the length of the figure. I'd say it's about an 8-inch assembly here, so when they gave a flame effect, they were not screwing around. And I think a lot of people do like when they include flame effects. I know there's some of the Boba Fetts that have one for his flamethrower. Whoosh. It's a popular thing. It doesn't really do much for me because I can't see it. Physically it just feels like a blob of melted plastic. But, it's neat that they do, and that it's just an optional thing. So I just wanted to point that out and mention the Mandalorian connection. But mostly it's just, like I said, the rule of cool. What is neat, because this is fantasy and storytelling, and unlike, say, Star Trek or even Battlestar Galactica, there's really not much effort in Star Wars to make it authentic or realistic. It's more of the story and the characters than the technology. But that still doesn't mean we can't do videos on troopers, because they're cool too. There's something strangely alluring about a Stormtrooper and Clone Trooper, don't you think? Not that I don't like Rebel Troopers too. Very much waiting for the indoor commando to come out. I'll probably buy a couple of them now that they've revealed that they are doing Old Man Rex face. So I gotta have that to complete my Rex setup. Anyway, appreciate you hanging out with me today. Which is your favorite Flame Trooper look? Maybe it's just because I like the Snow Trooper so much, but kind of find myself going towards this guy. I really like his long, goofy gun, too. The First Order's fine. He's probably my least favorite, though. The Mando version's good. I think his gun part's neater. His backpack is okay. But yeah, let me know which one you prefer. With that, this is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.